What up, watch peeps? This is the second installment in my new series of how-to videos. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to cut a crown stem. So whether you're replacing the crown in an SKX or doing a ground-up build in an aftermarket case, you're going to be getting an uncut crown stem that will need to be cut to the appropriate length. Now, getting that crown stem cut to the right length will ensure you get a nice crown pop while unthreading, while at the same time ensuring the crown screws all the way down, as well as allowing for easy operation in both winding and time and date setting positions. And since there won't be a wrist check in the middle part of the video, we'll do that now. I am wearing my Natos Sector that I have coined the Sector Explorer, as it has the dive dial in the field case, one of my favorite and most unique watches. All right, let's get to it. I'm Pete, and we are chilling with watches. Alright, so to cut a crown, the first thing you're going to do is take this guy and remove it from the movement and chuck it. You're not going to be able to reuse that. And then usually on top of the movement under a pad you will find the new uncut crown. So you're going to need to take this crown and load it into a pinch vise. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, when you load the stem into the pinch vise, you're going to want to do it with the threads facing out, obviously, so you can attach the crown. And you're going to want to attach the pinch vise to one of the cylindrical areas onto the stem. Do not try to attach it to one of the square areas or you will damage the stem. So then you just take your crown, and for now we're going to screw it on tight, but we're not thread locking or anything like that because we are just going to be measuring how much we need to cut off at this point. So we're going to remove it from the pinch vise. You just twist it, it falls out. Now we're just going to insert this full length stem and crown assembly into the movement. Always twisting as you're inserting. You can pull it out to make sure. Now you'll see it's going to be obviously ridiculously long. So that is what we're trying to measure, is how much we want to cut off. So you know how the spring-loaded crown is going to compress into the movement. Let me show you that. So we want to take that compression out, and that is how much we want to cut off so that it has a nice crown pop. So to figure out how much we want to remove of the stem, we're going to take our calipers and we're going to be using this side, and we're going to insert those two prongs in between the case and the crown. Then we're going to compress the crown as much as we can. We want to fully compress it, and that will show us how much of the stem we want to cut off. Now we're going to leave these like this because we're going to reuse this side when measuring how much of the stem to remove. Okay, so we will then remove this crown and stem from the movement. Easy peasy, set that aside. So now we have this. We're going to reinsert it into our pin vise. Now we can remove the crown again. And what we want to do is, I have like these hardened boron. These are actually stem cutters. And what you want to do is put the crown, the threaded end of the stem, in between the calipers, showing you how much to remove. And I put the cutters, if you can see, up against the far side of the probes. And basically, if you have the front edge touching, let's see if I can, it's hard to do on camera, touching that far prong, and then you put your calipers up against the one on the left, then you can make that cut right there and that will trim your stem down to the size you need. Now, if you're unsure, you can take less off, play it safe, and you might have to come back and do another cut. I've done this a bunch of times, and I've got a whole bunch of stems, so if I mess one up, I'm not too worried about it. So I usually go for the full amount in the first cut. Now, once that is cut down to size, you're going to have a raw cut edge on those threads, and you want to take your diamond file and you are going to cone the threaded end. You're going to basically, at a 45-degree angle, you're going to file, slowly turning the pin vise while you're doing it and putting a coned edge on there, and that will allow it to smoothly engage the threads in the crown, and also that cone will compress against the inside of the crown and pressing back against it, which will give you a nice tight lock. Now, once we're absolutely sure, we'll also put some thread locker in there. So I'm going to put the crown on now and test the fit. Now, first, before you do that, after you've filed, I take like an older dirty piece of Radico and screw that right in there. Make sure you're getting all that dust off of your threads. And if you put a nice cone shape on, that'll go on super easy. Make sure that's in there tight enough to get the crown all the way through down. All right, then you can release that. There's your measured out crown. And now we want to test the fit in the movement. That went in nice and easy. Now we're going to test by compressing that spring. I usually put like a little slight quarterback turn, engage the threads on the crown tube. I love having all that down, and you can see that the crown threads all the way tight to the case. Had a ton of crown tube threads to grab, and when we disengage, boom, nice audible pop. Perfect cut crown tube and stem. So now I'm going to remove the crown again, and I'm going to put a little thread locker on the threaded end of the stem and then reattach the crown. Okay, so we've got the now cut stem and crown assembly back in the pin vise, which I incorrectly called a pinch vise. Remove the crown, and we're going to just apply thread locker to those threads. You don't need much. I use thread blue because on stainless steel it has good adhesion. And you know, for this kind of thing, you can really just unscrew the cap, and you're going to have thread locker in the cap, and you can just take the threads and rotate them around in that loose thread locker that's on the cap. That will be plenty. Then we're going to take our crown, thread it back onto the stem. Make sure the stem's in there nice and tight, and that's why you don't want to grab one of those squared off or rectangle parts, because you will squeeze and damage it. But if you're on a cylindrical part, you will not damage the stem. Make sure the crown is threaded on all the way nice and tight, because like I said, besides the thread locker, that compression of the cone against the back inside of the crown will force a backwards pressure that really puts like a lateral friction on the threads that will help hold it in. I'm going to clean up that little bit of extra thread locker that's on there, but at this point you now have a fitted crown and stem for your new watch or mod. One other thing I always do with these when you have a raw or brand new crown and stem is see those two gaskets on the crown. I always re-lubricate those. Just basic silicone grease with a very fine tip. You can see that's fine in one direction, it's flat. Fine tip brush that's dedicated to silicone. You're just going to want to slightly go over each gasket, because sometimes there will be dust even on them. You want to remove the dust and just get fresh silicone on there. That will help with your water resistance and with the smooth feel of the crown as well. Alright, that's it. So that's it, guys. It's not an incredibly difficult procedure, but like anything in watch modding or watchmaking, having the right tools for the job can make all the difference. No matter what job you're doing, I think having good magnification will be a huge help. I like the Optivisor because it's easy for me to flip it up and down, and it gives me the 2 levels of magnification that I use most in the different things that I do. For this specific job, at a minimum, I think you want a pin vise and a set of diamond files. Those 2 things will allow you to get a good job done. If you're going to add on to that, I think I would want to have silicone grease on hand. That's always nice to re-lubricate the crown gaskets and even the case back gaskets. Alright, that's it. Before I let you go, I'll do a sneaker check. Wearing my Jordan 4s again. I'm out. If it's not too much trouble, like, subscribe, and come back next time. Peace.